Thinking about England's early days is like picturing a giant puzzle being built. Imagine, if you will, people moving these giant stones from South Wales all the way to Salisbury. This is Stonehenge we're talking about. It shows us how those early communities faced huge challenges. Just to think, they managed to transport these stones without any modern technology. And these stones aren't just any pieces of rock. They are like whispers from the past, telling us about the minds and ambitions of those who came before us.
It's amazing to think about Stonehenge, isn't it? But what's even more fascinating is what comes after. England's history is like a roller coaster. How did a land with such simple beginnings end up with such power and influence? From those early settlements, moving through to the Roman invasions, there's so much to explore. It's like uncovering a grand tale that shaped the world we live in today.
Imagine 30,000 years ago, when the first humans arrived in what we now call England. Back then, another kind of people called Neanderthals were living there. But when modern humans came, the Neanderthals disappeared. It's like a new chapter started in that land's history. These early humans were like pioneers, finding new places to live and explore. They set the stage for all the history that would come later in England.
Exactly, and they didn't come from nowhere. These early humans crossed from Europe using a land bridge known as Doggerland. This land is now under the North Sea. Once in Britain, they started living in caves and left behind amazing cave drawings. These ancient people were also clever with their hands, making tools from stones. It's like they were leaving clues for us to find thousands of years later.
And speaking of clues, genetic studies have shown that there's a direct link between the people living in England today and those who were there around 9,000 years ago. This means some of their descendants live there now. Isn't it interesting how these connections reach back so far in time? It truly is a reminder of how long humans have called that place home.
Definitely. But then, the seas changed everything. Rising sea levels flooded Doggerland and turned Britain into an island. Suddenly, the only way in or out was by boat, which made the land a bit isolated. Yet despite being cut off, people continued to settle there. It shows how determined they were to make that place their home, no matter what nature threw at them.
Let's pick up from where we left off. So, after the seas rose and Britain became an island, new groups of people began to arrive. These people brought with them agriculture and new languages. This was a big change for the land. Around 3000 BC, we see the creation of settled communities. Instead of being nomads, people started living in one place, building homes, and learning new ways to work the land.
Right, and with these changes came new skills and traditions. One of the important things they did was flint mining. They used these stones to make tools and weapons. But it wasn't just work. They had beliefs too. They buried their dead with treasures, which suggests they believed in an afterlife. This also shows that there was some kind of social hierarchy, where certain people were given more importance.
Soon after, a group known as the Beaker people arrived. They are named after the style of pottery they made. These people were nomads at first, but they too started settling down. As they moved in, they adapted to an agricultural lifestyle. With their arrival, communities grew and became more structured, leading to changes in the way people lived and worked the land.
That's true. These changes led to the formation of larger villages. The way they buried their dead also became more complex. They showed more care in how they did things, which tells us about a growing culture and society. Larger communities meant more ways of working together and sharing resources, which set the stage for the next steps in England's history.
Now that we've explored the early settlers, let's dive into the mystery of Stonehenge. This place is truly special. Imagine this circle made of huge stones, standing on the open plains. It's not just a bunch of rocks. People used to think Stonehenge was a ritual site. Others believe it might have been a calendar, showing the passing of time. Some even say it was a burial place for important figures. Isn't that amazing?
Absolutely. Stonehenge amazes us not just because it's there, but also because of how those stones got there. The people at that time moved these giant stones all the way from South Wales. Just think about the strength and the planning needed for that. It shows they had a pretty complex society with well-organized travel routes and people who were in charge saying, "Let's do this." It's like teamwork from ancient times.
Speaking of important people, have you heard about the Amesbury archer? His tomb is near Stonehenge, and it gives us clues about their society. The archer was buried with many valuables like copper knives and gold jewelry. These treasures suggest he was really important, maybe a chief or a priest. It tells us they had a social structure, with rich and powerful people at the top.
Exactly. And all of this activity makes Salisbury Plain a major center for early civilization in England. People came from far and wide, drawn to the energy of the place. The surrounding villages and the life they supported showed how people lived and worked together. This cooperation made Stonehenge possible and reflects a thriving community, united by beliefs and ideas.
As we move into the Bronze Age, life in England became really interesting. You see, back then, people lived in warrior societies. They built their homes in hills with big wooden walls around them. It was because they were worried about fights and attacks. But it wasn't all about war. Rivers were very important to them, and they believed these places were holy. Many treasures have been found in rivers as gifts to the gods.
Right, and what's fascinating is how England's landscape brought its own set of unique challenges. The north had lots of mountains and was colder, so people mostly raised animals there. Meanwhile, the south was warmer and good for growing crops. It became quite rich and connected to other parts of the world. Places like the Thames Valley were full of trade and culture similar to today. People there really showed how advanced the society was becoming.
That's a great point about the South. Because of trade, England connected with places far away like Greece and Egypt. They were part of huge trade networks despite being at the edge of the known world. Traders exchanged beads, metals, and other goods. This means England wasn't just isolated. It was very much a part of a wider cultural exchange. The people were not just warriors, they traded and communicated with others across lands.
Absolutely, and let's talk about something that was very special in England. Their tin. It was one of the few places with lots of tin, needed to make bronze. This was crucial because bronze was used for so many things, like tools and weapons. England's tin was very valuable, and it found its way to different civilizations, helping them grow and become stronger. England had an important role in shaping the stories of many other communities during that time.
Now, as we continue our story, let's talk about the arrival of the Celts in England around the 7th century BC. The Celts were quite remarkable. They had superior iron weapons and tools that really changed the way people lived. These tools allowed them to farm better and build stronger structures. This was a big step forward in technology and everyday life. It also meant their warriors were stronger, which helped them gain power over other tribes.
Exactly. With these new iron tools, the Celts were able to build impressive hill forts. These were large fortified settlements on hills, surrounded by big walls. The forts showed that the Celts were not just about fighting, but also about making societies more stable and secure. As these forts grew, they became the centers of larger kingdoms. People felt safer and could focus on building and living in these more organized communities. It was a big change that shaped the land.
Celtic society was very interesting. They had two main groups, the warriors and the druids. The warriors, of course, were known for their strength and bravery. The druids were the priests, responsible for the spiritual life of the people. These groups helped maintain order and gave people a sense of purpose, which allowed the settlements to grow safely. With more people and resources, they could create bigger communities, and life became more settled and stable.
Right, and it's fascinating to note the first recorded visit from an outsider to England. Pytheas, a Greek explorer, visited the island around 325 BC. He wrote about his observations, describing it as a peaceful place with many kings and princes. His visit highlights the growing connections between England and other parts of the world. Loving this peaceful life, the Celts and Pytheas both saw the potential for growth and harmony in these ancient lands.
In 55 BC, everything took a new turn. Julius Caesar, the great Roman leader, decided to set his sights on Britain. It was a land full of potential wealth and a place to show Roman power. But when Caesar arrived, it wasn't as simple as taking over. The first battles were tough for the Romans. The local tribes fought with everything they had. Their strong will surprised the Romans, but Caesar was a skilled general, and he had his own plans.
In 43 AD, over 100 years later, another Roman leader named Claudius made a new push into Britain. This time, it was more serious. Roman forces had learned from their past and came with strength and numbers. Some local kings saw which way the wind was blowing, and they decided to join forces with the Romans. They believed that siding with such a powerful ally would benefit them in the long run. It was a moment of big changes for the island.
But not everyone wanted to live under Roman rules. In 61 AD, a brave woman named Boudica led a strong rebellion. She was angry about the way her people were treated. The Romans did not respect her land or her family. In fiery speeches, she told her followers that they would fight back. Her passion inspired many others to join her cause. They believed they could push back against such a massive force, even if the odds seemed against them.
Boudica's forces attacked Roman cities like Colchester and even reached London, setting them on fire. It was a powerful and symbolic attack on Roman authority. The sudden rebellion caught the Romans off guard. They had to regroup to face Boudica's large army. When the battle finally happened, it was brutal. Though outnumbered, the Romans fought fiercely and managed to stop the rebellion. In the aftermath, it was clear that while Rome had won the battle, the spirit of resistance in Britain was very much alive.
As we wrap up our journey through the early history of England, let's reflect on what we've learned. We saw how the first humans arrived tens of thousands of years ago, how agriculture changed the land, and the incredible rise of societies like the ones that built Stonehenge. Each era was crucial to forming the England we know today. It's amazing to see how these early events set the stage for future developments.
Absolutely, and there's so much more to explore in England's rich history. We hope you've enjoyed this series and learned something new. If you did, please show your support by liking this podcast, subscribing for future episodes, and leaving a comment if you have thoughts or questions. We'll continue to dive deeper into England's captivating history, so stay tuned for what's to come.